Brought to you by IOCO, Africa's leading integrated technology services company.
And for today's Tech Talk of Optimism about AI investments has powered much of the boom in US stock markets. But advanced AI capabilities might now be achievable without the massive amount of computational power, microchips and energy as previously thought. DeepSeek's approach to building their AI model appears to be cheaper to operate than US rivals. The AI company's emergence comes in the midst of a tech race between the US and China and advanced chip technology restrictions. Business Day's business writer Mudiwa Gavaza joins us now with more insights. Thank you so much for your time, Mudiwa. There's just so much noise around this that I feel like nobody has really explained and simplified really what DeepSeek is and what its role in the AI space is. So just lay the table for us on that, but also why it's only catching our attention now, considering that it's been around for over a year.
I think there's a couple of things that are going on, at the same time. We always talk about these perfect cocktails.
Yes.
But I think your biggest driver in terms of getting DeepSeek into the consciousness, the mainstream consciousness, is probably the World Economic Forum, right? So many business leaders were talking about this thing. That's the first thing. And then secondly, DeepSeek itself had actually disclosed how much it took them to get their model to the point that it is. And in essence, you're looking at a model that is similar to ChatGPT,
yes,
right? ChatGPT is basically an application that sits on top of a platform, right? The platform is, is OpenAI's platform, right? So in this particular case, yes, there's the DeepSeek, chatbot. That's like a ChatGPT that's we're used to, but the underlying technology, quite similar to what we're seeing, the model, the large language model, quite similar to what we see with ChatGPT, except that, to your point in the intro, they've done it at a much, much cheaper rate.
Yeah. Listen, okay, you explain it and I understand that it basically is ChatGPT's competition.
Yeah.
What is the impact on NVIDIA then?
I actually think that there's been an overreaction on NVIDIA, because basically the US market has tanked, right, because of AI-related stocks, right, because the thesis around AI is no longer what it was this time last week, right? This time last week, we were thinking AI is a capital-intensive industry that's going to require billions,
yes,
to continue to train these models, to continue to develop them, and then on top of that, get to the applications that we're all going to be using, and the enterprise side of things, right? Now you have the Chinese come out with their model, and they're able to do it for $5.5 million, whatever it is, right?
And does that have to do with the chips? Because I know ChatGPT uses NVIDIA's chips. But I don't think DeepSeek was using NVIDIA's chips.
So this is where I'm saying I think there's been an overreaction, right? So, and I say an overreaction because basically what's tanking is everything that's related to AI, that's AI focused, AI related, and obviously the broader market has also come down. But anything that's AI related is currently seen as a little bit toxic, right?
Yeah.
And I call it an overreaction because I think it was yesterday, I believe, that NVIDIA's share price actually went up 9%.
Yeah,
right? So someone realized, oh, guys, we're taking them down, but they are not really the problem, right? Because NVIDIA provides the technology, they provide the hardware that all of these models are sitting on. They're providing the computing power, right? The ones that should be shook is the Microsofts, the Metas, the Googles, because they were the ones using the NVIDIA hardware as part of their computing power to train their models, right? Now, if DeepSeek's thesis is to be believed, if what they're disclosing is true, what DeepSeek did is that they used NVIDIA chips, but not the latest ones and not the most powerful ones. They used older and lower powered ones.
All right.
Right. So now you're busting so many myths to say, firstly, you don't need the most powerful hardware. And it's actually a credit to NVIDIA.
Yeah.
Because what it shows is that NVIDIA's hardware is so powerful that even on the low end, you can train a model.
That DeepSeek can actually rival ChatGPT,
Yes.
even with those older, less powerful chips.
Yes. And it also then exposes to say, okay, fine. Once again, if it's to be believed, is that it means that the likes of OpenAI and others that have been using the latest and greatest that NVIDIA has to offer were probably not being efficient in how they were doing it. Because imagine, one side is achieving the result with lower grade material, but these guys are spending way more with higher grade material.
But then, I mean, because from what I'm seeing now from the market's reaction, it feels like, oh, DeepSeek is disrupting the whole AI industry, and particularly those US tech companies. And it feels like people think that they expect the US companies to just sit and watch DeepSeek disrupt, and they're not going to do anything. Like, are we just not expecting any sort of response from these US tech companies?
What the response is going to be and how swift it's going to be is going to be an interesting one to watch. But the biggest thing is that the US companies are going to have to come out and actually justify why it's taken them so much money to train their models. And they're going to have to rejig, their models, right? China has done what China does, right? We're seeing it right now. Just look around in South Africa. The same way that they've been able to increase quality at a lower price in the vehicle market, they're doing exactly the same thing when it comes to AI, right? Because someone looks at two cars, one from China, maybe one from Germany, and is like, why am I paying so much for this? And that's the same thing that investors are saying, because investors were making the call. We're valuing OpenAI, we're valuing Meta, Amazon, Microsoft based on, the promise that we're putting billions in. We're going to expect
some
billions
sort of return.
Out, right?
And it's actually going to be interesting this week, Mudiwa, when those companies come out with their numbers and they actually shine a light on the kind of investment that they've been making into AI. Now investors are going to start looking at that through a magnifying glass, saying, why are you spending so much money? And when can we expect to see those returns? But just lastly, I mean, just on a macro level, we're now dealing, of course, with this war between the US and China. Is the gap now? Is this highlighting that the gap maybe may not be as wide as we thought in terms of their technological and AI capabilities?
So there's a lot of ways we could unpack that, right? But the big thing is that the US is fearful of China's ability to surpass them. And all of these little things that we keep seeing are evidence of that. Because the evidence shows that the Chinese are able to either rival, get on par, or surpass using lower grade materials, using lower end hardware, because with the chips, the US is controlling the types of chips that are going into China. Right? Same with using chips again. It happened about a year and a half ago with Huawei. They brought out a phone, and when they did a teardown of this phone, the guys were shocked to see that this is what Chinese smartphones are at. They actually thought that they were 2 or 3 years, behind, and now they were seeing evidence to say, that's that. So the biggest fear is, well, if you were to actually give the Chinese level playing field, same equipment, let's go toe to toe, what's going to happen, in that particular case? Last point I'll make is something that, I've seen a couple of the AI guys, and I think it was, I stand to be corrected, but I think it was the CEO of Anthropic talking about the fact that in a lot of what's happening in AI, there's a lot of copying each other's homework that tends to happen in the space. OpenAI used to be open source, and then they decided to put a price and a premium on it. DeepSeek is open source. People can go and actually see what's there, which means other AI companies,
Are
right,
going to
can
start-
actually
okay.
come in and copy what's happening. But the biggest issue will be about how did they do it at a cheaper cost.
You're such an interesting space to be in, and we'll definitely be keeping a close eye on the developments. Thank you so much for your time, Mudiwa. That was Mudiwa Gavaza, business writer for Business Day.
Brought to you by IOCO, Africa's leading integrated technology services company.